what you're saying, that doesn't necessarily have to be about blood, because it did seem like God was willing to just throw it all away and start all over again. So it doesn't seem like blood really mattered, or where you came from really mattered.
We have to weigh these verses out. Philosophically, it seems that this has to do with commitment, with devotion to God, not physical seed. Because there's individuals who are physically, again, related to Abraham, who are not in a covenant with God. I mean, how can we say that the descendants of Amalek, if they even exist nowadays, are still in a covenant with God? Then being in a covenant means nothing. Haman came from Amalek. He was willing to eradicate all the Jewish people, but he's still in a covenant with God. Then what does being in a covenant mean?
I didn't inject the fact that a covenant takes two people, and I understand that. But I think there's a lot of lowering of the bar, that there are obviously Jews in Israel that are, quote, seed, and they're not living like covenant people. I get that. But the promise is still there to them. It doesn't get erased. And it gets to those that come in as well. I think God's got a big tent.
So the rabbis seem to also disagree, because if you have a Jewish father and not a Jewish mother, but they don't consider you spiritual seed of Abraham either. According to Rabbi Akiva, you need both a mother and a father. But according to Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, it was just a mother. So they went back and forth. Just being a descendant of Abraham, that wasn't enough. Now, they also missed the bar because they thought that having a mother or Jewish mother meant something religiously. I mean, it means something halakhically. It's hard to balance what the Torah says outside of Genesis regarding what was given on Mount Sinai. Even if you had a Hebraic pedigree, you would be cut off if you broke any national edict, like eating chametz on Pesach. If you spit on the covenant, you would be cut off. Why doesn't that word cut off mean as much to you as the phrase covenantal seed? That we have to weigh things out ethically. Does that even make ethical sense? Jews make fun of Christians when they bring down the notion of vicarious atonement. And rightly so. It's silly that someone could die in your behalf and you could benefit because of someone else's death. Well, isn't this vicarious merit, saying that, oh, well, because my great ancestor kept Torah and accepted Torah in my behalf, I'm still in a covenant, even though I don't even believe in God anymore. But we have to use equal scales.
Let me illustrate it this way. Let's get a modern example. Look at, and I'm not going into politics, but it's an example. Look at the people that are Antifa. They're born in the United States. They are Americans. The metaphor, like, say, Jews. They're Americans. They can pillage and throw down statues, and they can burn buildings, and that's horrible. But that doesn't still negate the fact that they are Americans, and they'll be tried in American courts and given the same justice as the upright American that defends their home in Detroit. They are Americans. It doesn't matter how bad these Americans get.
You're missing the mystical aspect here, the spiritual aspect. Them being American has no religious connotation to it. Saying that these
it has an ideology attached.
No, right. Well,
an ideology is the same as religious ideology.
No. Okay.
In this example,
you're saying that God considers someone in a covenant with Him, with God, even though they don't keep Torah. Now, I acknowledge that someone is still halachically Jewish, legally Jewish, allowed to live in the land of Israel if there was another court, another Sanhedrin, another temple, another king, another priest, just by having a Jewish mother. I acknowledge that for legal reasons, but I'm not going to say that they are in some way in some covenant with God.
Well, look at this. They get cut off. They get cut off because they become sinners, and then they go to the world to come. We don't know what happens there, but they're still in a covenant. They get They get judged there. I don't know what happens, but they're still the seed of Abraham.
Well, they would. Well, first of all, Rab, wouldn't they still have to be in the covenant, because they would just be executed? Like, if you're a Jew and you say, "Have a nice life," I'm gonna do whatever I want. Technically speaking, if there was a Sanhedrin, you would just be, okay, have a nice life, and you would be thrown off a cliff, stoned to death, right? Like,
no, clearly they wouldn't live in the land too long if they don't keep Shabbat in the land or break any commandment that has a death penalty attached to it. By the simple fact that someone could convert to Judaism means that it doesn't matter what pedigree you belong to. It doesn't matter. That means if you happen to be related to Abraham, and no one could know if they really are nowadays, anyone claiming to be a direct descendant of Abraham or Isaac or Moses today, that can't be proven. But by the simple fact that the Torah allows converts to come in and be treated like full Jews according to Torah law, why should anyone think that anything promised to Abraham before the Torah was given in some way means that this covenant is still applicable? It seems that God added to the initial covenant of Abraham, the Sinai covenant. The Sinai covenant put conditions on that initial covenant. God, I wouldn't say chose Abraham, but gave Abraham the opportunity to make the right decision. And he did. He passed all the tests, and then he used them as the platform, i.e. his descendants, to get us all the way to Mount Sinai, to give us the tools to make this world a better place. But in those tools was something called karet, that if you fail to do such and such, you would no longer be special to God. He even says that you'll be my Am Segulah, my treasured people, if you keep my mitzvot. Oh, no. He's a descendant of Abraham. Who cares? We have to try to harmonize the Torah. We just can't take 2 verses or 3 verses in Genesis and say, oh, well, this is going to solidify what a Jew is or what being in the covenant means, because that would not make God lovable. Because I wouldn't want to worship anyone or love any God who elevates blood over ethics. Doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to elevate blood over ethics, obviously, because I'm a convert.
No, but you're saying that God does. You're saying that the 10 tribes are coming back whether they want to or not. It doesn't make any sense.
I think that when it all boils down to everything, we're all children of God, and that we all have, a reckoning with God according to our own Bible, our own Quran.
I can say a lacham to that. That's a nice little.
No, I think that's silly.
No,
so Hitler is a child of God as well? But then being a child of God means nothing.
I didn't say that. You're putting up a straw man there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's not part of the argument. You just, what's that when you introduce Hitler into a conversation, the conversation ends?
Yeah.
You said we are all children of God and we're all accountable to our own text, whether it's the Quran. I don't think that's true. I'm not going to call it.
Then why are you a Freemason?
Freemasonry requires you to believe in one God and uses the Bible as its platform.
They can take the Quran up to that altar and say, I believe in the Quran.
When taking the oath to become a Mason is one thing. Masonry is built not on the Quran, it's based on the Holy Bible. When taking the oath as a Freemason, if you're a Muslim, you could use the Quran. If you're a Jew, you could use the Torah.
Right, but why? Because we're all children of God.
People who behave unethically, I think, lose the opportunity to claim God as their father. Right. I respect the Holy Bible, the New Testament and the Old Testament, because it's the building blocks of this great country. Masonry is not a denomination.
Well, why do you call your people worshipful masters? I mean, who are you worshiping over there?
If you want me to translate what the word worshipful means, it means worthy of being served. The worshipful master is supposed to be King Solomon himself. It has nothing to do with worship. The word worship is just an English word that's typically mistranslated. But worshipful master, heck, even lodges in Israel, he's called the Nasi Hagadol, the head leader. It has nothing to do with worshiping people just because he's called worshipful master. As a matter of fact, they have a new worshipful master every year. It just means serve just like you would serve a king. I'm a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason. As a matter of fact, I encourage people to become Masons, especially.
Sounds like a wonderful organization. It sounds like it makes really good people.
Now, I also don't believe everything Albert Pike or Freemasonry teaches regarding mystical topics. And you're not required to, by the way.